Sometimes sewing can be hard and some fabrics are more difficult than others. This video will go over my top 7 hardest fabrics to sew with, beginners beware. Just a note, these fabrics may be hard to work with, but they're not impossible. It's best to wait until you feel comfortable with your abilities, as many of these fabrics can be pricier. This list is in no particular order. For each of these fabric categories, you can check the description for a link to get tips on how to sew with them. First on the list is velvet. Velvet is a soft luxury fabric that looks gorgeous when treated right, but it's not going to make it easy for you. What makes velvet difficult is the nap or pile. You have to really worry about pattern layout and grain line to make sure the nap is consistent between seams. And pieces will creep as you try to sew seams together, and it can be damaged during pressing. With this fabric, you want to prep and plan. As a beginner, consider trying velveteen first, which is less expensive and usually a smidge easier to work with. Next is any kind of soft open weave fabric like lace, tulle, and even chiffon. They can be hard to cut accurately if using pins and scissors. I recommend using a rotary cutter as much as possible. Plus, it's hard to transfer any kind of pattern marks onto fabric pieces. TAILOR tacks are your best bet. Sewing a seam, especially when it comes to lace, might not be straightforward. Check out our video on doing an applique seam that's commonly used for sewing lace together. Faux fur can make some really interesting costumes and garment pieces, but you don't want to jump into this fabric if you're new. The number one thing is that it can be messy. Anytime you cut this fabric, little fibers and hairs are going to end up everywhere. Plus, seams could be thick, making it hard to sew on regular consumer machines and to pin. Seeing marks is also difficult. Again, you'll want to use TAILOR tacks. Next, I'm going to group all of the lightweight silky tight fabrics. I call these silkies even though most of the time they're polyester, but they're satiny, lightweight, and drapey. These fabrics are not beginner friendly because they're slippery and like to slide. They're difficult to cut and sew. You'll probably want to use a lot of pins, and even then you'll probably still want to rip your hair out because the seam likes to pucker. For a beginner, if you want to work with a fabric that's lightweight and drapey, I'd at least go with one that has less of a satin texture like crepe de chine. Because knit fabrics are stretchy, a lot of people are nervous about them, but many aren't that bad. But the number one nightmare knit fabric is spandex or swimwear. This fabric takes both the headache of stretchy fabric and combines it with the headache of slippery, silky fabric. So it slides, stretches, and doesn't have much stabilization to make it easy to sew. Unless you really want to make your own bathing suit or activewear, this one is a beginner's beware. Check the description for a link if you do want tips. I've been sewing for a long time, and even I avoid working with any type of fancy fabric like sequins and beading type fabrics. Not only are they pricey, but these fabrics can take a lot of prep for sewing because we don't want to stitch through sequins and beads. This means that you may be removing them from the seam allowance by hand, and this is time consuming, and then sewing them back on by hand. Lastly, my least favorite fabric to work with are fabrics like leather, vinyl, and clear plastic vinyl. They can be thick, hard to sew, and are not forgivable to mistakes. Whatever damage happens means you're basically stuck with it or need to start with a fresh piece, but we have a video if you need help to sew with it. There are more tricky fabrics, but these are the ones that I recommend beginners avoid. Again, they're not impossible, but you'll want to work your way up to them. To see a list of my beginner-friendly fabrics, we have a video on that. And if you have a different fabric that makes you nervous, leave us a comment and let us know why. Our book, Professor Pincushion's Beginner Guide to Sewing, Garment Making for Nervous Newbies, is now available to order. Go to professorpincushion.com/books or click on the link in the description to see a list of vendors where you can purchase it.